Well, thank you very much, Scott. So my button over here to show my screen is grayed out. That means I'm already showing it. Is that right?
I need to take that poll down first. Thanks for reminding me.
Okay.
Now you should be able to
Okay.
share it. There you go.
All right. So beginning the screen share now. So hopefully everybody has eyes on the intro page here. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear. If I need to adjust my microphone up or down, please somebody holler at me. Let me know that. Okay, well, welcome back. It feels like we've all been gone for almost a week, with Wednesday and then Thursday and then half a session on Friday and, a food hangover to deal with. I hope everybody had a great holiday for Thanksgiving, and we've got more coming up here. And then we'll be to the first of the year when the real action starts. But who knows? December could be quite interesting here as well. All right, so moving right along here. Let's get our disclaimer out of the way. Just want to make sure everybody is aware of the fact that we here at Trade Ideas are not registered investment advisors. So please don't misconstrue any of the information that we share with you here today as a solicitation of any type of investment. Everything that we share with you here today is strictly meant for educational purposes. So for those of you who were, in front of the screens all day, probably noticed that it wasn't a real easy or difficult trading day. There just were, it seemed like the opportunities weren't quite as prevalent as they normally are, which was kind of normal for, the Monday after Thanksgiving. So today we're just going to go over the AI trades, review them, kind of, talk about the performance, and even though the strategy cluster was slightly negative today, that's actually good in a sense because when it does have its losing days, these are the type of losing days that we prefer, nice and small. And then we're going to go on to talk about some of the positive money lubricant factor trades that have been showing up lately on those small dollar stocks making the big moves. Those are definitely something to pay attention to. So let's get on with it. Okie dokie. So let's just go over the AI traits first. Oh, hold on, my mouse is not cooperating with me. We'll just push this guy away for now. And of course, as we can see here, the cluster only had 5 strategies in its hopper today. And most of the trades were generated by this guy right here, long support is at you, and the other long, under 20 and over 20. So when we look at the action for the SPY today, obviously we had some pre-market activity that was a little bit higher, but by the time the market opened, we were right back down to, the closing price of the prior day. Now, for the most part of the day, we seem to be stuck in kind of a little bit of a downdraft. We try to come back up, we peeled off again at the close. But if we look at the long term over here, look what's happening right here. This is basically like a little consolidation, on the intraday scale. It looks very similar to what we call an NR7 pattern. But once this guy starts coiling up right here, we're going to start coiling up here, and then eventually we're either bust out the new highs or we're going to come back down here. Of course, the future remains unknown at this time. So we have to try to be prepared for both occasions. So looking at the SPY today and the fact that we were in kind of a little downdraft all day, looking at the trades and, the fact that they were longs, not really that surprising that, we didn't just make a pile of money today. Now, if we do look at trades from an individual basis here. All right, so here are all the trades that were generated today, and if we just kind of sort by loser and winner, these guys right here, when the exit time rolled around, maybe some of you that were in these trades decided, you know what, I know the exit time has come around, but hey, I'm in the money on the trade. I think there's a little bit more in there. And of course, I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it was the exit time was right before one of these little push-ups on some of these trades. So you could have probably milked those trades for a little bit more. Of course, you have to use some reasoning. If the time has come to exit the trade, obviously if you're down in the trade, you probably don't want to do that. But if you're up nicely and the thing's moving your way, you can always just set a tight stop so that if it does back off, you still captured most of the profit. So, looking at these guys right here, if we just kind of start scrolling through, you know, the entry points here, let's see, that was CTOS, CANF. This one, you know, on the exit probably was the better way to do it, but a lot of these, you know, got out a little prematurely, but there was still some room left in some of them. Not a lot of big winners today. And then, of course, on the, you know, all these were the under $20. That was an over $20. And then we had one small loser on the under $20, and then a couple of, you know, these guys right here kind of spoiled it today. But taking into consideration what we saw in the market all day, I mean, if you're losing this small on a day where you're trying to go long when there's a more or less a downdraft, that is really encouraging. Okay, so we still got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week, and so by the time Thursday comes to a close, hopefully we're going to be up a nice little point percentage on the overall cluster performance. And of course, Fridays, you know, we know how those work. But you know, sometimes on the sleepier days, we do get surprised and get into some really decent trades here. But we'll see what happens tomorrow with the AI channel. Those of you who have been closely monitoring it from the very beginning have seen the progress that we've made, you know, in curtailing the number of trades and teaching the AI cluster when to be aggressive and when to not be aggressive. So, you know, even though it was a small losing day, I'm not disappointed with the cluster performance. All right. So we will see what happens tomorrow. Now, let's talk about our friend here. A lot of you, if you guys have been regularly attending Monday and Thursday webinars, and then also attending some of the Wednesday webinars right here, looks very familiar. For those of you who do not have this window, you can always email us at info@TradeIdeas, and we can get this window over to you. So obviously we're seeing the list, it looks like right now. All right, obviously we need to go back in time a little bit to see what the lists look like, you know, at least with 2 or 3 hours to go in the market. So let's just set my clock to look back for 10 a.m., which would give us 3 hours to go. Okay, so you can see we've got a pretty populated list here. And just to refresh everybody's memory of what we're trying to find here are these sleepy low-dollar stocks that have just been hammered really bad, and they're starting to base out. So the idea here is to buy the stock, and assuming you're comfortable with the risk level, which is going to be dictated by the base that it's formed, this gives you an opportunity to get in on some of these stocks as they're just starting to make that bounce move. So typically, the best way to do it is sort by the efficiency small cap, and of course it says higher the better here, which is what we're sorting by presently. So when we start looking at these patterns, well, you know, let's focus on the daily first. Look how, you know, how the stock's been beaten down, and now we're getting into this little base area right here. So in essence, when you're looking at these plays, and of course, we like to tell you about them not when they're just doing this forever, but when they've been doing this for a certain period of time, and they're now starting to wake up. So, you know, here was the basing pattern coming into today. This was today, obviously. But when we look at, you know, today's activity on the intraday, once it starts ratcheting up like this, that's a good indicator that, you know what, that sleepy period is just about over with. So it gives you the confidence to go, okay, you know, and of course, if you're an intraday person, you probably get a little bit jittery thinking about holding something overnight. When, you know, in all reality, if we know that our risk is just slightly outside, you know, if I make this chart a little bit larger and kind of expand these bars a little bit, you know, we can get a pretty good idea, you know, about what we're looking at there. Then it just becomes about buying the stock and placing it below that range there, which, you know, on that bar right there, we're looking at a low of 24 cents. So, of course, this is a really small one, but the philosophy is the same on the chart pattern. This one on the daily, it's already started to go here. And of course, some of these stocks are going to show up as repeats on a daily basis. But, throughout the process, you'll start to recognize the repeats. But that's all we're looking for right here. This guy right here, SBLK, nice base that it's forming down here. So for all, reasonable purposes, if you don't mind taking a little overnight risk on these low dollar stocks, and of course there is overnight risk on any stock. I forgot the name. Somebody needs to refresh my memory on the symbol that went crazy last week. Stock was at $2 or $3 and then just gapped up huge. Now, in that scenario, if you went home short, you could really get a lot. Matter of fact, I know I talked to some that knew a guy that went home short a lot of that stock, and it didn't turn out too well for him. But we're kind of taking the opposite approach here. It's already beaten down to below $1. So, if we were to go home with a couple thousand shares and the thing did gap down, some type of, maybe 20 or 30 cents, it wouldn't feel good, but it's not going to be a life-changing event either. So that's that's what we're basing our premise, beaten down so much, and they're starting to come to life today. So if the risk looks tolerable, you should probably get some of that long so that where it does gap up or it does have a huge move, you're already in it. You're not having to try to get an entry, in this crazy stock today that's active, that's already up, X amount percentage. You're already in it and just enjoying the ride. So, those of you who have been watching this window, I hope you've gotten some good results. And, obviously, if that's the case, you're going to continue to watch it. And for those of you who do not have this list, please request it, and we can pop it right into your cloud for you. All right, so as you can see, this is very long, but typically we're only interested in the top stocks that have these high efficiency small cap values. Okay, so now I'd also like to mention something about the stocks that were doing the high volume today. And once again, reverting back to the fact that for most of the day, we're in a downdraft. We have our little bumps and gyrations here. But clearly there was more downside action as the indices reflect. Never saw a whole lot of green on this panel today, especially once we started taking this little header right here. However, everybody knows this window by now, turbo breaks up. So what I'd just like to point out here are the stocks that were continuing to go up today, that were just doing basically nothing but go straight up today on a day where the market had a little bit of a bearish tint to it. So here we are looking at the history of this window. I believe, let me just make sure, yeah, okay. So we're on history. Start pulling up these stocks. AMBA, all right? I mean, the picture speaks 1,000 words. We open here, we vacillate a little bit, and then we just pretty much get cranked up all day, all right? SMH, once again, a stock that pretty much just went straight up all day. And of course, not everything off this ticker is going to do that, but for the most part, I've clicked on 4, and this chart pattern looks a lot different than the overall market. Of course, Exxon, everybody knows who they are. So, just wanted to take the time here to point out that even, on a day where there was a big downdraft, watching a high quality information stream like this, we were still alerted to a lot of stocks with a lot of upside potential. The buying was going on hot and heavy in these guys today. And once again, this is not rocket science. This is just some simple metrics, stocks hitting daily highs with the accelerated 1-minute volume. The golds were on fire today as well. Let's see, some of the brokerage firms as well. I mean, what a beautiful chart. I mean, who would not have wanted to be in that today? So, just wanted to point out the fact that on a downdraft tape like today, there were still plenty of big cap liquid stocks headed up. And right now we're just kind of looking at the whole market here. We're excluding the ETFs. But let's see if I can find my 500 list here. There it is. What if we did this? What if we pointed that window just to the S&P 500? Would that really change things up that much? All right, well, S&P, only the following list. And then we can just remove these price constraints. So now if we take a look at this, it doesn't really change up the list that much. And let's do this. Let's just get back to where we still had some time. You can tell we have a lot less hits now, okay? Since we're only screening 500 stocks instead of basically the entire market. So let's do this. Just get back to where we have about 3 hours to go, or maybe a little bit more. And once again, you know, we got the CME exhibiting this pattern. I believe that's BlackRock. So this does give you a little bit more of a detailed peek of, okay, within the S&P 500, which were the stocks that were in play today. And of course, you know, it might be mental, but anytime we're dealing with the index or a stock that's in the S&P 500, I don't know, people just seem to be a little bit more comfortable with those stocks. You know, you don't have to worry about, you know, we can't say that every S&P 500 company is trading extremely liquid each and every day. However, if we put a little bit of volume, you know, turbo in there, and we start looking at these stocks, I mean, once again, it speaks for itself. You know, on a down day, you've got a lot of things to pick from the upside that are extremely high quality plays. All right, so I hope that kind of resonates with everyone, because a lot of times we overcomplicate things. And for those of you who have had my training session and have listened to a few of these webinars, you do know that I prefer the simple techniques to most things, because the less things there are to confuse us, the easier our job is on a day-to-day basis. All right, so money lubricant, AI trade review, stocks that went pretty much just straight up all day on high volume. And so with, you know, a little bit of time remaining here before we go to questions, the last time, I think it was a couple Thursdays ago, we did single stock back testing. So, you know, what I'd like to try to do here right now is, you know, not have anything pre-made, but just kind of walk through the process of doing some single stock back testing, just right here on the fly, and see what we can come up with. So that those of you who are OddsMaker subscribers, if you haven't been through this process, I would definitely recommend, you know, going through this process. And for those of you who are not OddsMaker subscribers, we can demonstrate this technology in a single stock fashion and show you, you know, how you can come up with high probability trades for a single stock. Or, of course, if you wanted to translate that to the whole market, we could do that as well. It's just that this is a little bit more specific. So let's do this. I'm just going to start this alert window from scratch. And then, of course, let's just pick something that everybody likes. And, of course, we could always just go to our friend Apple, because it's one of the most actively traded stocks. So we could pick Apple or Google or, you know, a handful of other stocks. But let's just start with Apple for this one. And make sure my exchanges are right. Single symbol. Okay. So when we go about this process, and just so everybody knows what I did there, we just go to symbol list, we check single symbol, and we just pop the symbol in that we want to do the scan for. So when we're doing this process, our filters become a lot less important. unless it's a specific metric like volume or range or any other thing besides, the bottom line is that the price and some of the other things that we fold into a bulk scan don't necessarily apply here. So what we do is we just start picking the alerts that we might like to try, one-on-one basis here. So for example, let's say, how about when Apple pulls back 25% from its highs? You simply say add the alert. And back test it. Now, for those of you who are seeing this panel going, what in the world am I seeing? That's what I did the first time I pulled it up. But this is the new odds maker panel that they're testing out. So as opposed to having the entire panel here with all the things visible, for some reason, we're splitting it into different tabs. So this is simply the back test time. So if we say wait 10 minutes to get the craziness of the market over with, or you know what, since this is a single stock, let's just go ahead and bypass the first 30 minutes. And then as a timed exit, just for something to start with on an intraday basis, we're going to say 30-minute hold time. Then we are not going to use a profit target or a stop loss. We're just trying to gather information here. So, of course, I'm getting used to seeing this as well, so give me a second here. And we can just keep it on a 30-day backlist as well. So if we buy that event, what can we expect? Okay, I see interesting, but what I'm not liking is this right here. So number one, do we have our equity in line? And that is no. Okay, at least we have enough equity now. But the problem is, even though we're generating a decent winner versus loser, 51 cents over 34 cents, we're only winning 50% of the time. So, when it comes to this process, we definitely want to find something better than that. 18 trades have been generated over the past 30-day period. So, when I see something like this, my first inclination is, okay, I did run it for the long, but while we're here, we might as well see if the results are better executing a short on that. And of course, look what we have here. 50% here, 50% here. So obviously, if we were trying to find something on Apple, that we would probably need to go to something else other than the 25% pullback from the high. So if we don't find any luck there, all we do is we go back to the drawing board. Okay, well, if a 75% pullback doesn't get it, even though this one probably doesn't show up as much, my curiosity still has the best of me. So what if a 75% pullback from a high is implemented? And we keep the same settings and go again. Well, look. Let's see what the numbers look like. Oh, okay. Well, I can see here that I win 6.9% of the time. However, not so good here that the average winner is only 23 cents and the average loser is 47 cents. Now, could I improve this at all by using, buying my hold time? Or installing a profit, or excuse me, a stop loss? Okay, so basically, all I did is I took the hold time from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. And now, we're in the green. We still have a very big spread between average winner and average loser. But then again, we can keep fiddling with, I'd be hesitant to use a 50-cent stop loss or even anything lower than 50 cents. I mean, when you're in Apple, you're pretty much having to use $1 or more just to try to stay in the trade. And of course, that's assuming the spread doesn't open up too wide. But the bottom line is this, I've just tried 2 alerts here. The 25% pullback from the high and the 75% pullback from the high. And of course, that's just one of many alerts that we have to choose from here. So give me 1 second here and now we'll continue with the process. Let's try 1 minute volume. Okay. Interesting. We're getting about a trade a day. We're still, at the threshold of only about 12 grand in buying power. And now we're getting a little bit of spread between winner and loser. So at this point in time, like this, then, it could be just about adding another filter. And that filter, just about anything else from the filter set that you, think is a good metric for you to be using. But, the single stop optimization is still laborious, but it's not near as laborious as backtesting the entire market. So especially for those of you who maybe have just gotten the odds maker, this process right here is a very good with the fray. Of course, we can generate decent back tests for the whole market, or a little bit more labor intensive than the other. So, I just wanted to walk through the process there, not have anything pre-canned that's already been optimized. So you can see from that, little demo that we just went through here, it's like working a puzzle every time. And sometimes you get great results right off the bat. I found that it doesn't work. We just go back and we try something else. By the time you get through this alert list, you will find 2, 3, or more events that are extremely highly probable. So, the process that I've been going through here lately is if I'm attacking one symbol, whether it be SPY, Apple, Google, Tesla, anything, as I find these decent events, there might only be 1 trade a day or less, and handy that you can take if you developed 5 strategies for the SPY, and they're all spitting out 1 trade a day or less, then that's when it's time to take those 5 and pop them into a, so that you know that all those trades coming through for that specific stock are going to be those high probability trades. And, some of you out there have your pet stocks that you like to trade every day, some do not. But that's a very good technique. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor to questions. And let's see, I think Scott had to leave, but let me see if he's still here or not, or if he's already left. Okay. Alrighty. Well, it appears that Scott has left us at a El Doctoro appointment to attend to. So, I'm not the most proficient at monitoring this questions panel, but let me see if I can find it. So at this point in time, let's see here. Oh, KBIO is that stock that went Richter. I see. Okay. All right. When will we have a scan that you can find stocks that get above pre-market high? Coming from Don. Stocks that get above pre-market highs. Well, we've got the pre-market highs and lows. Now, what you're asking, Don, I guess, is if I pulled up the SPY here, and we can see that's the close from Friday. Pre-market highs were up here. So the question is, once the stock goes back above that level, that's when you're wanting the alert. And I'm pretty sure, give me 1 second here, guys. I'm just trying to read some messages. Right. You're right, Barry, because I remember that's on the to-do list. So that is coming. There is nothing right now in filter or alert format to say, hey, this stock has penetrated pre-market highs or lows, but that is coming in the future. Mike, thank you for your comment on my screensaver or my background. Don, I don't know when that specific filter is going to be in the queue. You know, the way it works with, you know, requests is we're always maintaining a pretty lengthy list of requests from clients, and we prioritize them by the ones that have been requested the most. So I'd love to tell you an answer. I just don't know right now as to when that's going to be showing up. Chris is asking, which filters do not report pre-market? And I'm glad you asked that question, Chris, because there's a very easy way to figure that out. So this is the way I like to do it, but of course everybody's different. So I just started this window from scratch, and now we're just looking at the filter list. So, you know, very long filter list. And, you know, if I look at the alerts and we type in pre, we got pre-market highs and lows. We got post-market highs and lows. But when I'm looking at that for filters, we've got a few that identify as post and you know, previous days ranges and things like that. Now, a lot of these filters will report pre-market. A lot of the filters and alerts will both report pre-market, but they don't say anything about that. Some of the filters will not report pre-market, and that's why it's very important knowing, you know, moving forward. Since the filters work in the all or none capacity, many people in the past have come to me and said, I have this pre-market scanner and now it's not working. I don't know what happened. Well, the reason they're pre-market filters or their filter set, top list, whatever, the reason it quit working is they went and they added a filter. That filter does not report pre-market. Since these are all or none, it makes the whole filter set null and void. So if you're ever wondering, does a filter or an alert report pre-market? The easiest way to figure that out is, for example, I want to implement running up now. I check it. That's the only thing I have in this window. And whether this is just a single alert or a filter, the process remains the same. So running up now, all I have to do is go back and check my history before the market opens. So the market opens at 6:30 here. I set my start time as the open and leave this like that. So now, as long as, you know, you always want to make sure you have your time column stretched out to where you can see the date. So we're starting at 6:30. Now we're before the market opens, 6:29. So did the running up alert, does it fire pre-market? The answer is yes, because we're seeing pre-market activity on that alert. So whether it's an alert or a filter, just blank out an alert window, add only that filter, go back and look at the history, and if it's a filter, you don't even necessarily have to put a setting in there. And what I mean by that is, if we were curious as to whether volume in the 1 minute period reported pre-market, we could just install it as a column and go back and check the pre-market activity. So I've just got that filter installed. That's it. As a column right here. So now we just have to go back and look at that history again. Okay, so I'm getting hits pre-market, and it's showing me values. So that's the easiest, most direct way to find out if a filter or alert reports pre-market. Okie dokie. So what does your pre-market channel report? All right. That's what Dick Ulrich is asking. Thank you, Dick. So pre-market. I just flipped to the pre-market channel. So these are all the windows in the pre-market channel. We've got up gappers, down gappers, and pre-market movers. So we've got 3 different things here along with a couple of charts. So, you know, pre-market movers, up gappers, down gappers. You know, if we take a look at the history of, say, the pre-market movers, we'll get an idea of the flavor of this window. So we can see here, this was probably set up to stop reporting at the open because all of our hits here are pre-market. Pre-market highs are the alert in this case. So let me just go back in here. It's the multi-strategy. Okay, so we've got pre-market highs, pre-market lows, high relative volume stocks, and moving up in the pre-market. So this specific multi-strategy window here, you know, at first glance it only looks like there's 1, 2, 3 strategy windows. However, you know, with the beauty of the multi-strat window, we get 1, 2, 3, 4 different strategies in this one window for any of the stocks that are starting to move, hit pre-market highs. This guy right here is going to be showing you the stocks that are gapping up, stocks that are gapping down. So that's pretty much it on this window, but as I always like to point out, you know, this channel bar here was designed so that you could browse the markets very similar to the way you watch television. And how do you do that? You know, I don't couch surf as much as I used to because I know what I want to watch most of the time, so I only watch what I want to watch. But if I am bored and I'm flipping around that television, what happens? I come across something that's interesting, I'm like, oh, I'm done. Well, it's the same thing here. So as you're perusing these channels, you know, you might be watching the pre-market and you think to yourself, well, after watching this channel a few pre-market mornings, you know, up gappers, down gappers, that's not really my bag. So, but I do like this pre-market, you know, multi-strategy window. So it's real easy. If you watch this channel for a while and you came to the conclusion, this window's great, I don't really care for anything else in there, then it's really easy just to right-click on that window and say save to the cloud. Once you do that, you know, let's say I want to add this window to my default layout. So now I just come back up here and I load my default layout back up. And now to incorporate that window into my default layout, it's real easy for me to go load from cloud. There's the guy I just saved. Now I can incorporate that into my layout so that when I exit, if I select yes here, say save my layout, then this guy's going to come back up when I respawn my software. So, you know, it's kind of an easy technique to peruse these channels and only keep the windows that you find appealing. Now, while we are on this topic, a lot of people have said here lately, they go to a channel, they make some changes, you know, add a 0 to that, whatever. They made their change. But then they'll go to another channel and they'll come back here and they're like, my changes aren't sticking. Well, that's because these are all, you can't change the layouts that are in these channels. But what you can do, you know, here we are in the surge channel. Let's say you really like the surge channel. You go in here and you modify all the filters and all of these strategies, you know, to your liking. If you want to save this channel so that you can access it with your settings intact, the best thing to do is just save it as a layout and say, save the layout. You know, this is my, you know, pre-market or social media channel, and just rename it. It'll show up here so that when you want to access the channel but have all your specific filter criteria remain intact, then you actually have to save that channel as a layout. and you can, that way you won't make those changes in vain, and all your changes will stick. All right, a couple more questions here. Hold on one second. Carl is saying, I see we have alerts for hammer and hanging man candle formations. Do we have alerts for shooting star candle formations? Also, candle formations percent option. What does the percent mean? Okay, well, let me attempt to answer that question. If we just go to an alert window here. Ah, okay. Very good, Barry. Thank you very much. I didn't see the other side of the screen there leering at me. All right. So I think this is a pretty good stopping point for today, guys. A little on the, light side, but it was the Monday after Thanksgiving. So I better show you guys these slides or Scott won't be too happy with me here. So if any of you are considering, upgrading to the odds maker, or for those of you who are not subscribers to TI, the regular basis or anything, we've got some discount codes that you can use here to either get 50% off your first month. If you prepay for a year, you can get 25% off, or you can get 30% off the OddsMaker lifetime license, which also gets you access to the AI channel. So these codes will be good till December 4th. And we also are still running the 1288 special. It used to be the 1088 special, now it's the 1288 special, which gets you a year of basic TI subscription and also the lifetime AI OddsMaker combo as well. So, you can go to this link to sign up for the 1288 package or use any of these discount codes if you just want to go a la carte. Alrighty, well, I think that's about it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to thank everybody for attending. Welcome back from the holidays. Hope everybody had a good one, and we will see you in the trenches. Thank you very much for attending, and have a great profitable day tomorrow. Bye-bye.